Okay, everybody, we'll go ahead and get started. I see a lot of folks are still heading in, but we want to welcome you to this webinar that's presented by Florida SBDC at FIU in partnership with the Miami Foundation and also our partners at Prospera. This webinar runs approximately an hour in length, and we're going to save some time for questions and answers with our presenter. But we want to welcome you. This webinar is specifically focused on a special FDOT program for small businesses. And we have a really great presenter today, Matt Block. We kind of term him the FDOT whisperer. He's worked with FDOT for a long time. He's worked with a lot of small businesses. And is here to kind of give you some insight on this particular program and how it can help your business. We know that a lot of businesses have been looking to pivot during COVID-19. A lot of businesses that were not involved in government contracting, did start getting into government contracting. Folks that were involved in local contracting have been pivoting to state contracting and vice versa. So we're just happy to provide some information on this particular program and how it can help your business. Before we get started, I did want to just recognize our partners and also the sponsor of the webinar. So just give me 1 minute. Okay. This webinar is presented under the Building Prosperity Initiative, which is a project under the Miami Foundation and the JP Morgan Chase Foundation. The particular partnership and project is a joint project between SBDC at FIU and Prospera. We're working during the COVID-19 to assist more businesses in our community and to work collaboratively. And so we've been providing joint workshops and webinars. We've been providing joint consulting assistance and referrals. It's been a really great project. And so we just want to thank the Miami Foundation, JP Morgan Chase Foundation, and our partner Prospera, because we couldn't do this webinar without them. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Soledad from Prospera for some remarks. Then we'll have Matt kind of get started, because I know you didn't log in to hear me. You want to hear Matt and the presentation. So just thanks to our partners, and feel free to post in the chat what your any questions. And also please use the Q&A if you have some questions for Matt as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Brian, and good morning, everyone. I want to highlight once again, I think you said all about this great opportunity that we have. We have been collaborating for years with the SBDC, but this particular project, thanks to the support of JP Morgan Chase and the Miami Foundation, help us to continue to support business owners and entrepreneurs here, particularly in South Florida, Miami-Dade County, and in Broward County. Both organizations, we have seen throughout the years the need that there's out there in our community, especially during these COVID times. So we're here to help you. We have been providing these webinars about disaster resiliency and also how to become more resilient, especially during these times. So I would like to thank again, Brian, Jesus, and all the SBDC staff. This has been a great collaboration. Organizations, when we join our efforts, especially to support business owners, there is something really a beauty within that. So again, I want to thank the Miami Foundation, JP Morgan Chase, and I'm going to stay here to hear more about Matthew's presentation and FDOT.
Cool. Thanks, Soledad. And like she said, both organizations are really strong, and we can do a lot on our own, but obviously you can do a lot together, especially during times like pandemics and disasters and things like that. I did see we got a couple questions on if this is being recorded. Yes, this is being recorded. We will upload the video to our YouTube page, so Brianna can provide you with the link afterwards that you can see it, just in case you missed something, or in case you really like Matt and his kind of presentation and his voice. You can kind of hear it multiple times and hear what's going on. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Matt Block, who's one of our SBDC consultants focusing on government contracting.
Thanks, Brian. Hello, everybody. Good morning. My name is Matt Block. As Brian was saying, I've worked a long time with the FDOT, and it's really been an honor for me to be able to help all small businesses, get work with the department. They are a very, very good agency to work for. And before we begin, I would just like to say that, there's a little misconception about FDOT all the time, in which they think that they just do roads. In order to do roads, they have to do everything. I have not seen anything that they don't buy. They have procurement, They have office headquarters. They have so many needs. So if you're thinking, oh, well, my business has no opportunity with FDOT, I've even helped people like, start coffee stands for, FDOT cafeterias and buildings. So, I might not have the answer right off the bat, but I do know that they buy everything. Today, we're going to be looking at something that a lot of people are not aware of, and FDOT does their best to try to get it out there. But, it's such a big agency that it's really hard to spread it all out where everybody hears it. They actually have contracts that are set aside for small businesses with the FDOT. In other words, big companies cannot bid on them, which makes the competition a lot easier for everybody in the small business. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start sharing my screen here and go over some slides and show you essentially what this business is about. Before I begin, I would just like to say that, I'm sorry, just getting ready here. I would just like to say that, if you need any help finding these jobs or locating these jobs, or, because this presentation is going to go over what they are, please feel free to contact SBDC, and then we will be more than happy to help you find the jobs you're looking for. So as mentioned, this presentation is about the Business Development Initiative, or BDI program of the FDOT. All right, as you can see here, you can see this SBE certified logo here on the side. This SBE certification is not the same certification you would get with the city of Miami or the county. It's a different certification with FDOT, and if you need help obtaining it, we'll be more than happy to help. So probably the most important thing about this program of the FDOT is the first bullet point you see there, which is no pre-qualification is required. Pre-qualification is a very, very difficult process to go through with the FDOT, because they basically scrutinize everything about your company and see if you are ready to engage as a prime contractor in FDOT work. We're going to talk a little bit more about pre-qualification in this presentation, but just so you know, in BDI projects, no pre-qualification is required. All right. Second, no bid bond is required. This is a very important one, because companies who don't have a bonding company are usually excluded from being prime contractor with the FDOT. With BDI reserve projects, this is not the case anymore. You do not need a bid bond to participate. All right.
Hey, Matt, sorry to cut you off.
Yes.
Could you maximize the presentation, like down in the little bottom, the little computer monitor, so it goes up?
Mhm.
I think it's really good information. If folks are like me, they have kind of poor eyesight. They might want to see the big slide.
I'm just afraid that.
So to the right.
Look
Yeah,
better?
that works.
Okay.
That's good.
All right. Okay. So now, if in a normal FDOT project, if you are not pre-qualified as a prime contractor, you would have to get up to $250,000 in work. There is no more limit to that. You're going to have to get pre-qualified in order to do over $250,000 of work. However, BDI projects extend that to $1.5 million, which is really good for small businesses that want to get on a larger project as a prime contractor. Okay. While I said there's no bid bond required, every single job is going to have some kind of bond, of performance bond and payment bond, just to make sure the job gets done. And since FDOT knows this, they have a bonding assistance program for small businesses. All right. And probably the most important one, this is reserved for small businesses only. Okay. So, big businesses, according to FDOT standards, cannot apply for these jobs. All right. So, sorry, first one. All right. No pre-qualification required. I said we're going to talk about this. If you look at a FDOT bid, you'll always see this Rule 1422. This basically means Rule 1422 means that the contractor going after this job needs to be pre-qualified. In BDI jobs, you're going to see a big notation that says pre-qualification per Rule 1422 is not required. Okay. As I said, it's not easy to get pre-qualified. FDOT deeply scrutinizes every company that applies for pre-qualification for technical expertise, financial operations, and proper business practices. So, unless your company is settled and you've been doing a lot of work with them, it's very hard to get pre-qualified. Usually, companies have to be subcontractors working under FDOT primes for a long time before they're even considered for pre-qualification. So, the BDI program really helps you there. Without pre-qualification, most firms are limited to subcontracting or working directly with the FDOT on projects up to $250,000. All right. All firms should strive to become FDOT pre-qualified firms, and the BDI project actually opens an opportunity for you to become FDOT pre-qualified. We'll speak about that. All right. Second, no bid bond required. Unlike most other projects, BDI opportunities do not require a bid bond. You do not need to have a deal with a surety before you bid on these jobs, okay? Companies that cannot access a bid bond can now participate on FDOT projects. Performance and payment bonds are still required to ensure the delivery of this work, and we're going to talk about how the FDOT helps you get these bonds later. FDOT understands that first-time bidders may make mistakes in the pricing of their first processes. Not to get into too much about bid bonds, but basically a bid bond, what it does is it guarantees that you put in a good bid. In other words, that you are going to honor the bid price that you gave. And sometimes small businesses make the mistake of bidding the jobs too low, and they might want to walk away from the project. And in the real world, without BDI projects, that would go against the bid bond, and the prime contractor that ran away from the job would be fined up to 5% of the job of the price. In this case, you have no bid bond, so you're not going to be fined. All right. However, they will give you a small slap on the wrist, because instead of a bid bond, FDOT requires a $500 cashier's check. Now, keep in mind, when you give them a $500 cashier's check, this doesn't mean you've lost the money. If you lose the bid, you still get your $500 back. If you win the bid and you perform the work, you get your $500 back. The only instance in which you would lose the $500 is if they're ready to award you the contract and you decide to walk away. In that case, they will keep that $500 cashier's check. All right. So about the pricing, which is what everyone likes about this more than anything. All right. And a standard FDOT project as a prime contractor without pre-qualification you have up to $250,000. All right. And a BDI FDOT project as a prime contractor without pre-qualification, you have up to $1.5 million. So there's a huge jump there. But please keep in mind, I always like to say this because sometimes people get confused. This only applies to FDOT projects that are labeled as BDI projects. A lot of them will be $500,000 or $750,000. If they're not labeled BDI, they still require pre-qualification. So you cannot bid on those jobs. They need to be labeled as BDI projects. This is probably the advantage, the BDI reserve contract. No, Neil's going to happen. Sorry. All right. As previously discussed, FDOT has small firms. Even though BDI jobs are reserved for small businesses, performance and payment bonds are still required to ensure that the project is completed on time. All right. So every single one of these jobs is going to have a performance bond and a bid bond. However, if a firm cannot secure a bond, FDOT has the bond guarantee program for small businesses. All right. But remember, the BDP, the bond guarantee program is only for FDOT projects. All right. The bond guarantee program, you cannot use it for any other type of project if it's not the FDOT. If you need more information about the bond guarantee program, please just contact your SBDC center, and we'll be able to help you with that. Because there are some requirements, you have to go to some classes to obtain this, but we can help you with that definitely. Okay, and it's reserved for small businesses. All right, BDI. This is very important because FDOT works a lot with DBE firms, and DBE firms often get confused because the DBE is basically based on race and gender. The small businesses is the business development initiative is gender race neutral. Okay, so even if you have the DBE certification, it doesn't mean that firms that are SBEs cannot participate on this project. All right. Businesses must be certified as a small business with FDOT. Again, if you need to get this certification, it is a very easy self-certification. You just got to fill out some 2 or 3 pages about the status of your company and turn it in. We can help you with that. Firms must submit the small business affidavit. This also comes with the certification. And this is very important. If you're professional services or construction, small business affidavits differ for construction and professional services firms. So they have 2 different affidavits. If you need the affidavit that's specific to your type of work, please give our center a call and we can help you with that.
And Matt, I just have a question. Is this to do the certification, is it free or?
Oh, thank you very much. It's absolutely free. It doesn't cost you anything.
Okay. Also, Matt, is it possible to close the blinds for 1 second? Because the lighting is coming in and out.
Mhm.
please?
Yeah, we were impressed, Matt. They really like your presentation, so they said they want to see more of you.
The lighting in my room is just terrible and my lamp went out. Is that any better?
Yes.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay. Sorry
I
about
wasn't
that.
going to answer, but then I think everybody really liked the content. So they said, hey, we want to see the presenter. He looks really cool.
Yeah, I got my lamp here, but it burned out. So it's just today. Of course it happens right now.
Yeah. So I
I
think you're good,
apologize.
though. I think you're good. So that's good. Thanks. We didn't want to throw you off, man. You're on a roll.
And it's okay. Thank you so much.
Not less important advantage of the BDI.
I knew it was going to happen. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And the
And you
All
can
right.
right click on that, Matt, and it'll delete it. So if the little icon is up, if you right click on it, you can delete it, or you should be able to.
It's not letting me for some reason.
Yeah, don't worry about it. It's okay.
Hopefully,
I know that you did that as like a redundancy, just in case. So
I got to stop clicking in the middle. So small business, big impact, right?
after
FDOT.
reviewing all the information on after reviewing all the information on
This is going to be a recurring problem. I apologize for this. So very important to understand is that FDOT started this whole BDI program because they want small business to succeed. Okay. Now, a lot of businesses always say, this is a hard process. It's a difficult process because they still require us to go through all the bidding process as prime contractors do. And yeah, they do. However, if you dedicate yourself and want to work on these jobs, FDOT has removed all the hurdles that were previously in your way to do it. So if you really want to bid on these jobs, there's nothing stopping you from doing it. Okay. So this is one thing that, when I go to FDOT presentations and they speak about the BDI program, this is something that FDOT representatives always like to talk about with small businesses, because sometimes small businesses don't understand, that when they do get awarded a job as a prime contractor, that means that they are solely responsible for the job. Sometimes they work as subcontractors and they're used to a prime contractor submitting all the paperwork and doing all the work that nobody wants to do. In this case, if you are awarded a job as a prime contractor, you will be in charge of every single aspect of this job, including the subcontractor. So it's something they like to talk about a lot. So I kind of brought it into this presentation. So one thing to look at, the positives, all right? Now that it's your job, first off, congratulations. You are a prime contractor now, and very few companies can say that, all right? So we do want to keep this in, one of the most important things about the BDI, and everybody likes to talk about, well, it's up to $1.5 million. And yeah, that's a great thing. But you do want to take in consideration that a lot of companies never have the opportunity to work with the FDOT as a prime contractor. And this gives you that opportunity. So you can actually put your company out there and say, we are a prime contractor for the Florida Department of Transportation, which is a huge jump for any companies, all right? Another thing is this time, instead of primes picking you as their subcontractor, you get to pick your subcontractors. Now, there are some rules and laws about this, and we're going to talk about this in a later slide, but probably the most important one to understand about this, that if you're the prime contractor and you got this job as a set aside for a small business, it's only logical that they expect you to bring in small business subcontractors. And this is something we're going to talk about a lot and towards the end of the presentation, because it's a big confusion all the time. A lot of firms think that, oh, I'm going to use my SBE certification, get the job, manage the job, then broker the work out to somebody else to do it for me and make the money. That's not going to work in this case. FDOT, did small businesses a favor by putting these set-asides. They expect small businesses to give back to the community by giving subcontracting work to small businesses. So you also get to establish your schedule, all right? So you get to schedule the work, how you're going to do it. You're no longer under the prime schedule. However, we do need to keep in mind that while we're able to make our own schedules, they will need to be approved by the FDOT. So, if your schedule does not fall within the FDOT, they're not going to accept that schedule. You may be the boss of all the subcontractors, but FDOT is still your boss because they are the owners of the job. All right. You get to write your own bills at the beginning of each pay period and submit the FDOT for payment. This is always a big one because, the big complaint you hear from subcontractors all the time is, well, the prime isn't paying me, the prime's paying too late or something like that. So in this case, if you're the prime contractor, you get to control the payments. But remember, at the same time, now you're on the other side. You control the payments for the subcontractor. So if you're not paying them on time, they're going to complain to the department about the prime contractor not paying them. So in this case, the shoe is on the other foot. So you want to take that into consideration. All right. You need to communicate directly with FDOT project managers and administrators. This, depending on how you look at it, is a good or a bad thing. If you like communicating and making your firm and putting your firm out there, it's a great thing. However, this can be a little daunting to first-time contractors because FDOT expects to be informed throughout the whole project. People usually ask me, they say, Matt, how often should I communicate with FDOT? And usually my answer to that is, if you haven't spoken to them in one day, that's already a problem, okay? They expect to be informed every single day about what's going on for the job, especially the project managers who are on the job. They want to know exactly what's going on. And one thing I can give you some advice on is that, definitely you do want to always tell them the truth, even if you're behind. They're used to projects being behind. It happens all the time. If you're driving around Florida, you'll see all the time that projects are supposed to be done, sometimes even a year ago are still ongoing. So they're used to delays, but they need to be informed of what's going on. And the reason they want this is because they want to help you. You got to keep that in consideration. It's not in their best interest for a project to be delayed or anything like that. So they want to know what's going on so they can do their best to help you get through the project, especially since you're a small business. As I said, they want you to succeed. All right. Now, a great thing about that is if you manage to get these jobs, you can make great contacts that will last a business lifetime. If you are successful on an FDOT project, that's a huge recognition for your firm. Regardless of how you got the job, you still manage the job as a prime contractor. So you'll have recognition within the department, you have recognition among contractors and subcontractors. So it'll really be a big boost to your business, okay?
So we have won our first FDOT. There was no one else.
All right. Now that it's your job, all right, the BDI's program advantage for small business is solely in the process of obtaining the work, not in performing the work. This is also a big misconception. The BDI reserve projects, basically what they do is they remove every single roadblock you would have had to obtain the job. But once you get the job, you're on your own. There's no special treatment for small businesses. If you bid the work, they assume that you know what you bid on and that you're going to do the work in the time frame and in the budget that you said. One thing that I do want to warn against is when you start working with FDOT, it differs a lot from the private sector in that they're not expecting any change orders. And I really want to stress this because sometimes the strategy is, bid as low as you can and then hit the customer with change orders. In this case, it's not going to happen. FDOT gives you a detailed list of line items that are going to be done on this job. So, if you decide to bid low on the job, don't expect that the contract price is going to go up unless FDOT made a mistake in their estimation process, which really doesn't happen very often. So please keep that in consideration. After the fact, if you're losing money after the fact on the job, there's no safeguards for, oh, well, I'm a small business, so you need to help me after this. They expect you to do it for the bid price you gave in the time frame that you said, okay? If you're awarded a BDI project, you are the prime. And so you are responsible for, let's look at these, job management, that's all on you. Scheduling is all on you. If the subcontractors aren't arriving on time, you can't blame the subcontractors on that. That's going to be our responsibility. We're going to have to go after the subs and make sure they get to the job on time and get everything done, all right? Communication with the department. The subs won't be communicating. It's going to be us this time, all right? Compliance, always a big problem for small businesses when they first start working with the department. There's so much paperwork that has to be done. This is always a big one when, the business are small enough where they only have like 1 or 2 people, because compliance on one of these jobs can, create another full-time job for your company, just to comply with, all the requirements. So it's one thing you really need to take in consideration. Billing, subcontractors, and vendors, just to name a few of the responsibilities that you will have to assume, okay? As I said, there is no special treatment for small businesses performing on a BDI project. You are just as responsible for a $1 million job as a larger contractor is responsible for an $100 million job, okay? The only difference is in scope and the size of the job. It's not gonna, there's gonna be no difference in treatment because of the size of the job. All right. So this is very important to everybody. Make sure that the work you bid on falls within your strengths as a company. If you're not sure, don't bid it. I remember one time I was teaching this class live, back before we passed into the Zoom era. And I was teaching this, and I brought up some BDI jobs on the screen, and this student, he came from the back and started writing down. He was, and I noticed with the corner of my eye, he was just writing down the $1.5 million jobs and leaving all the other ones. And I looked at the jobs, and they were all different. Like one of them was janitorial, the other one was a bridge construction, the other one was like some sales of some goods, and I'm thinking like, what's he going to bid on? Is it, he's just looking for the money. Be very careful with this, because remember, you are responsible for this job. If you don't have the expertise to do it, it could cost your company dearly. So please, please keep that in mind. All right. And very important, the last one is, and if you ever get to meet with me one-on-one as a consultant, I'm going to keep saying this over and over again. Key employees are the key to success. All right. Turnover in companies are usually, if you ask FDOT, what's the big problem with the BDI project? It's always that they start the job with a group of employees, and through the project, they start losing the employees, and then the project just starts falling apart. It is very, very difficult to maintain a project if you don't have the same people working on it, people with expertise. So that's really one thing you want to look after in these jobs.
One of the most important things we can handle.
All right. Now, as I said before,
this is a subject that first-time primes usually have.
As I said before, we're going to talk about subcontractors and FDOT project. This is important because a lot of firms, they're a little confused sometimes over, how they're going to bid these jobs and how they can do them. So I just wrote these to make sure that we're clear on this, on how the subcontracting works. And the reason I like to bring this up is because there are some firms that, as I said, they want to, and it's right. You want to leverage your small business certifications, but there are rules to these. Okay. You cannot, before I begin, I just want to tell you, you cannot just bid the job and broker out the work to somebody else. That's not going to happen. They're not going to allow it. And, if anybody tries to go around this, and I've seen this happen before, you can get sued for fraud, because, these businesses are reserved for small businesses. They're not made for anybody else to participate on them. So please keep that in consideration. All right. So here are the basic rules. The prime must perform at least 51% of the contract with its own employees in-house. All right. So as I said, before, you can't do any brokering of work. Okay. So in other words, 51% of the work needs to be proven that you're doing in-house with your own equipment, with your own employees. Needs to be proven that you're doing it. The rest of 49% can be contracted, subcontracted. However, the prime must use other small businesses as subcontractors. All right. And as I put in parentheses, if we're going to give the work to the big firms, then what's the point of FDOT reserving projects for us anyway? Okay. So all the subcontractors you're going to bring on this job, they're going to be vetted to make sure that they're small businesses. Usually, all this takes is knowing your team, your subcontractors, and doing the same process you did by getting this FDOT affidavit. And getting them registered, which can take within 2 to 3 days. So as long as you have a team ready for this job, you should be okay. Just keep in mind that every single firm you bring onto this job is going to have the same certification that you have. Okay. And here's another big one. All right. Prime must also try to meet DBE goals. All right. This is separate from this program. Every single job on the FDOT that has federal funds has a DBE goal attached to it. DBE stands for Disadvantaged Business Enterprise. This is another certification. However, this one is based on race and gender. And so a DBE goal for a project is usually around 11%. So usually they're expecting firms to bring in 11% of the work and give it to firms that have these DBE goals, these DBE certifications, sorry. Okay. Now here's the thing with that. A lot of firms who apply for these, who bid on these jobs are already DBE certified, which qualifies them as a small business. But that doesn't mean that because you're DBE certified, if you bid on this job, they're going to award you 100% DBE participation on the job. You still have to try to bring in those DBE firms, just like another contractor does. So your DBE certification, basically in a BDI project, is worth 0 participation. You got to try to locate DBE firms and bring them on the job, just like any other firm working on an FDOT project. All right. And the reason for this is, if you look at the bottom, this just helps small businesses, just like FDOT helped our small business. So they're reserving these projects. They expect small firms to give back to the community. Okay. Now, let me just move my. Okay, if you look at the results for the reserve contracts, there have been plenty of these contracts awarded. However, I do have to say that in my years doing this, I see a lot of BDI contracts bid on a letting date, and then nobody bids on them, and they just pass on to the next month, and they pass on to the next month. I still don't know if it's, I'm still trying to figure that out after so many years, if it's just lack of knowledge that, you know, small firms don't know these opportunities are out there, which is why our center decided to bring this to you, or it's just that a lot of firms are intimidated with the fact of being a prime. And I hope I'm not contributing to people being intimidated. I'd just like to give you a warning. These jobs are all doable. They're easy to do, and FDOT is there to help you. And I've seen so many firms, like, you know, start this small and become huge with this program, as long as they specialize in it. So it's something, you know, that you want to take in consideration. But if you look at the numbers there, it's been a very, very, very good program for small businesses. FDOT's business development initiative has been extremely successful. And one thing to keep in consideration, that both small businesses and disadvantaged businesses have been awarded many contracts, both in construction and in professional services. So again, like I said at the beginning, you do want to take in consideration that these are not only construction jobs, they are professional services jobs. There's a lot of engineering opportunities, a lot of janitorial opportunities. And also, I forgot to mention, a lot of maintenance opportunities for those who do landscaping or stuff like that, or gardening or stuff like that. There's plenty of maintenance opportunities. So you do want to contact our center so we can walk you through these and see what we can find. All right. One last thing I want to speak about is that one common complaint about BDI projects that I hear all the time is that it's the same firms that bid on the same jobs. All right. And while this is true, I want to tell you why this claim is unsubstantiated. Because the projects are reserved for small businesses. If you own a small business and you're technically qualified to perform the work, then you can bid the job. The reason you see the same firms all the time on the bid lists is because they have become specialized in going after these jobs. And frankly, they haven't had a lot of competition over the years. Small businesses, as I said, you know, I don't know why, if it's lack of information or if it's just they don't want to bid on the jobs because, you know, whatever reason, they're afraid to become a prime contractor, or they just don't know how to approach it, or they don't know how to bid it. But that's another problem. But I just want to, you know, make it clear that there's no special treatment given to any companies. If you see the same on the bid list all the time, it's just because they started doing it. They got good at bidding these jobs, and they got good at bidding these jobs, and so they're getting awarded more of them. And just let me, you know, say that in the outside BDI and normal FDOT projects, you see the same pattern. It's always, you know, the same, you know, 20, 30 firms that are going after the job. So it's basically the same world, just a little smaller. All right. That doesn't mean that other firms cannot bid on the jobs, but if you don't bid the job, if you don't actually bid the job, you're never going to be on the bidders list. So, you know, if you see the same ones and you're not there, and you're not on the bid list, it's because you didn't bid it. It's not because they didn't let you bid it or they disqualified you for whatever reason. It's just because you didn't bid it, okay? So if you don't know how to find or bid on BDI projects, there's plenty of no-cost assistance. And shout out here, your assistance is right here. You got the SBDC Center, just contact us. We'll be able to help you find these projects and help you bid on them. And lastly, I would like to talk about this. This is very important if you want to bid on these jobs, is follow up. Always follow up on these projects. There's going to be plenty of paperwork coming your way, plenty of documents and questions and everything. And if you miss one of them, you will be disqualified from the bid, because all this paperwork is necessary in order for you to bid on these jobs. So please follow up on everything. Email communication is super important here. They're not going to be sending you text messages or calling you to remind you. Everything is done through email at the government level. So please keep that in consideration. And as I said, follow up, follow up, follow up. And after you followed up, remember to follow up. Okay. That is the way all these firms are getting those projects that everyone says it's only them getting them. It's because they follow up. All right. And lastly, I would like to thank everybody for coming to this presentation. If you have any questions or anything, you know, please write them in the chat board and we'll try to get the answers to you as soon as possible. Please keep in mind that, you know, these projects are out there for all of you to bid on. If you need any help whatsoever throughout the certification process, the SBE certification process, the DBE certification process, how to obtain the documents, how to bid on these jobs, please contact your SBD center. You're not alone. I know this presentation did not cover, exactly how to bid on these jobs and all that, but that's a very, very large subject to cover. So, it's way better. I recommend that you enlist, one-on-one consulting to be able to help you with this and on these opportunities. So without further ado, I want to thank everybody for coming here today and listening to me blab for a little while. And I hope you do come to more of our presentations and you enlist our help to be able to help you bid on these projects. Thank you very much. So I'm gonna turn it over.
I have a few questions. Where can I find, or where can I see the list of the projects with FDOT?
Sure. Those projects are all available free of charge on the FDOT website. However, they are separated within letting dates for the districts. As you saw before, let me bring this back up. Right there is a district map. So each one of those districts you see there is going to have their own BDI projects for the district. Okay, so they're going to have, each one of them has their own website with a list of all the projects that are there. And again, this is a very, it's a long subject to go over, but they're all listed there. You can get all the projects for free. There is no need to pay any type of bidding service to get them. It's just a question of, navigating and finding them. And if anybody needs help, with this, we can do another class, or they can enlist one-on-one help with us and we'll be able to get them to it. But they're all there. They're all posted online.
Should a small business try to meet with a procurement officers to get to know them before an opportunity is out? And how would one best go about that?
Absolutely. Okay, so you should always talk to your procurement officers in your district that you want to work in, regardless if you're going after a BDI project or not. You should always know who they are and speak to them about your business. That's what they're there for. And one thing I want to tell everybody, and I'm glad that question was brought up. A lot of people, I don't know why, they're kind of intimidated sometimes about calling them. Most FDOT people I've spoken to are extremely helpful and really nice people. They're really there to help your firm succeed. So always give them a call. You'd be surprised at the great conversations you'll have with them, and they will help you, and all in their power. That's what they're there for. And I'll tell you out of personal experience, they love what they do. They love it. Now, BDI projects are not like, other procurement jobs where they have like a dedicated procurement officer for the job. BDI projects, they fall within the whole procurement office and the Office of Construction. So it's a whole team that works on all the jobs. So you don't have like a specific person working on it. So while I say do contact the procurement officer for the BDI jobs, do contact them. Don't expect to have like one in charge of the job. It's going to be a team of people working on all the projects. But do please contact your procurement officer for your district and get to know them, because that's always going to be a great help to you.
Is there a cone of silence on these bids? If so, how can we follow up?
Yes, there's a letting. Each FDOT will give a letting date for every single one of these projects. The code of silence is very short, depending on the work. If it's professional services, it tends to be a little longer. But usually the way the code of silence works so there's two of them, professional services and construction. In construction, it's a lot easier because you got a letting date. Let's say what's today, the 17th. So in November 17th is the letting date. That's the last day you have to turn in bids. In construction, they'll look at the bids. So there'll be a code of silence from the 17th until the afternoon of the 18th, where they post the bid results. Remember, not the awarded contract, just the bid results, okay? So basically that code of silence lasts less than a day, all right? With professional services contracts, they are specific, and each documents will tell you exactly when the deadline is for questions. Once the deadline for questions has passed, all the procurement officers go into the code of silence. In other words, after the questions have passed, you can no longer ask questions about the job. However, I do want to, sometimes we get to these jobs late and it happens. I do want to remind everybody that all the questions that were ever asked by all the contractors are posted for everyone to see. So sometimes, people really need an answer to the question. And if you go to the question and answers forum, probably the question you need answered is right there for you, okay? So before you despair and like, oh, I missed it and everything, just go look at the questions and answers. Usually It's a mistake they made in the documents, and you can see it. And people ask that question just like you did before time. So please keep that in consideration. And also remember that whatever question you ask will also be posted on the website as well. Okay.
How do I go about bidding for product needs? We are a wholesale PPE procurement company.
That's a very, very good question. Most BDI jobs are not going to be directly related to sales. However, if you know which contractor won the BDI project, remember they're looking for DBEs and SBEs to fill the goals on the job. Okay, and one of the best ways they do this is through vendors, because vendors are less risk than hiring a subcontractor, and especially PPE. That's a really good one. They need to buy their PPE from somebody. So if you think about it, if they're awarded, a $1.5 million contract, that means they got to give out like 160,000 of that to small businesses, to DBE firms. All right. So the first thing I can say is, if you don't have your certification, please get your DBE certification. And remember, the center can help you with that. And once you get that, all you need to learn is to find out which of the contractor was awarded the project, and then offer your PPE to them. If you have the certification, that's going to help them towards their DBE goals. So it's definitely a way to do it. I don't think there's going to be, I've never seen a contract that's directly a BDI project for vendors. I've never seen that, because it's more in the realm of services. But as I said, vendors, they have a lot of opportunities with the firms who are awarded these contracts.
Would a franchise, quote unquote, handyman services qualify for BDI project opportunities?
Yes. However, just keep in mind that FDOT does a lot of buildings. Remember, they have all their. Well, I would like to tell everybody, if you drive on the turnpike, you'll see all their facilities there, how big they are, and all the maintenance it takes, and all the fixing they got to do on those facilities. They're like little shopping malls. But you do got to keep in consideration that if you're doing this type of work, FDOT is going to require whoever's doing it to have a general contractor's license, or the license required. If you're a plumber or an electrician, whatever work you're doing, they're going to ask you to have the Florida state license for that job. So if you're not licensed, it's probably time to start looking into licensing. But there is plenty of work in that. Roofing, I've seen roofing, electrical, plumbing. I've seen all of those for older facilities, but you need the license. And a fun fact, by the way, road contractors don't need licenses, which is scary. They don't need any license whatsoever. Only people doing vertical construction.
Yeah. Okay, I have one more question. Do I understand correctly that if I am already DBE certified with BDI projects, will I still need to sub a percentage to another DBE certified company?
Yes, absolutely. And I'm sorry if I didn't explain that as well as I did before. I was having trouble with my presentation here. Yes, if you win the job as a DBE contract, as a DBE certified firm, your DBE participation on that job is effectively reduced to 0. You still have to bring in DBE firms to do it. In other words, you cannot leverage your DBE certification to meet the DBE goals. You will have to bring in other DBE firms to participate on the job, just like any other contractor would have to.
Okay. Does anyone else have any additional questions? All right. Okay, I have one more. On the FDOT website, are the BDI jobs categorized by NAICS codes?
No, they're not, because they're usually they're services based, so they're not categorized like that. They're you get to open the jobs and see absolutely every single one of the line items that's on that job. So it's basically you'll see concrete and you'll see electrical, everything that's on that job, you'll see it qualify. So they don't use NAICS codes for that.
Okay. To clarify, you do not need to have a general contractor license in order to bid on horizontal contracts?
That is correct. Unless you're working with bridges, but in that case, it's not a general contractor's license. That's a completely different ball game. But if you're working on road construction, doing asphalt, paving, you name it, striping, whatever it is, you do not need any type of license to work on that, at all.
Okay. All right. That's all the questions that we have received. Once again, if you're interested to register at our center, I will be, and also with Brianna, we'll be sending you the link to go ahead and register at our center or our sister centers across the state of Florida. So our respected contracting consultants can assist you in obtaining the SBE certifications and also FDOT bids as well. And I just have additional questions right here, Matt. I'm planning to start importing tubes and tires from China next year. Is that something that the FDOT will be interested in?
If it's metal, you got to be careful because since it has federal funds, there's the Buy America Act. If it's metal tubing, metal anything that's steel. Let me rephrase that. Steel tubing, because aluminum can be bought from can be imported, but anything that's steel falls under the first Buy America Act, which means that any type of steel on any type of project needs to be made in America. All right. This is very important. This is regardless of the quality of the metal. I've seen many firms try to say, oh, well, this metal I brought from Germany is better. It doesn't matter. It's the fact that it was bought in America or not. If it's PVC pipe, that's fine. They don't have a law on that. And the tires are fine as well. They don't have a law on that either. You just got to be careful if it's steel products. And that goes for everything. Tubes, structural steel, rebar, bolts, you know, name it, whatever is made out of steel. Okay, you got to be careful with that because those do have to be bought in America. And
Yeah,
they will.
these are just regular commercial and private auto tires.
I'm sorry.
They're just regular commercial and private car tires.
Yeah, no problem with tires. No problem whatsoever with the tires. You can sell those to any one of the companies working on these jobs. No problem.
Is there a contract for electrical only, or is there more like general contracting of projects?
Both. I've seen contracts that are only for electrical. Sometimes they're redoing the electrical system inside an existing building, and other times there's electrical that are tied into general contracting license to a whole building. So I've seen both. Okay. Are they available all the time? No. But you know, it's just something that you need to check every month and see if there's like, and that goes for everything. Goes for plumbing, goes for roofing, goes for everything. They have opportunities for all HVAC, what, you know, you name it. They have opportunities for them, but it depends on what their needs are for the time.
Okay, and how can we find a list of current prime contractors?
All right. All the prime contractors are listed on the FDOT website. Again, we can help you with that at the center. However, please keep in mind that these are only the ones that register with FDOT. The ones that aren't registered with them, you're not going to see them. And another thing we need to keep in consideration is, just so you know this, is that every single time that a contractor is interested in one of these projects on anyone, they will be listed. And the way it works is basically, in order for them to bid the job, they need to get the documents. So if any firm goes online and downloads the documents for a job, it automatically lists them under that job. So you'll be able to see exactly all the firms that are bidding on this job, which is the way I've done it over the years. I just look at all the firms that are bidding on jobs and I create my contact list through that because I know they're current and I know they're bidding. Whereas if you download a big list, you don't know what everyone's up to, okay? So each one of these jobs is going to show you exactly who's bidding on these projects. So that's probably your best way to get the list. And again, if you need training on how to get to these lists and all that, please enlist our help from our center.
Yes, in regards of the link and list of primes, we'll be able to you know, once you meet with Matt, like he'll be able to assist you in getting the apples to apples instead of apples to oranges. Like I said, our service is no cost to you, as our goal is to grow your business. Your success is our success. Matt, I have the last 3 questions here. Are there contracts for public outreach, public relations, and communications, or are those usually done through the construction prime?
No, yes, both. I've seen some projects for public outreach on projects. Some of these projects are very big and there's a lot of community involved in them. So there are contracts for outreach and professional services and stuff like that. I see them fairly often. However, it's important to note that it's very important to note that these types of projects are not bid through the FDOT website, but rather through the Florida vendor bid system, okay? Which is where all the state jobs are. So jobs like that are not construction or professional services for construction, the FDOT bids them through the Florida vendor bid system. And I've seen them there all the time. And again, you know, just like Jesus said, you know, if you need, you know, help walking through that, please enlist our help and we'll help you get through the vendor bid system as well.
And then is there any opportunities for transportation companies?
Yes, absolutely. Depending on what type of transportation, I've helped companies get jobs with transporting equipment for the department. I've had helped companies get dump trucks. Transportation of personnel, I've seen that too. I've never personally assisted on one of these, but I've seen also transportation of personnel to and from job sites. There's some jobs that are just like in the I-4 corridor, for example. It's in too big an area to have parking spaces, so they enlist the help of you know, bus companies and all that to move people in. I've seen them, never actually worked on any of them, but they're out there, definitely.
All right. Perfect. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Soledad, for attending today's webinar. But like I said, you'll be receiving the link to go ahead and register at our center, and also we will be uploading the webinar back again at our YouTube page. So if there's any questions, concerns, don't hesitate. Shoot us an email. We'll be more than happy to assist you. And without further ado, have a great day, and we'll be talking soon. All right.
Thank you, everybody.